Evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back with you on this beautiful Thursday night, the 30th of April, 2026. It is the final day of the month, and it's 4 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. that we do come to you live from Kampala, Uganda, where it's been a bit of a mixed day. Tomorrow for us is a public holiday, as I do expect it to be around the world. It's the International Labor Day. So I hope you guys will be honoring it. For me, my office will still be open. In other words, I'll be here giving you the latest stuff from the world of sport. Good morning. Good evening. How are you? I'm in Uganda. You're in Uganda, really? Good to have you. If you say you're in Uganda like me. That's from at Grevo. At Grevo. Yes, I do remember you at Grevo, even though even though your name gave me a lot of hard time to pronounce, so I decided to cut it short to Grevo, and I hope you indulge me on that. But I certainly do remember you. I hope you've had a wonderful day. For those of you that are just joining us, welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. Call me Ethan. Okay, all right, Ethan. I hope. Let me hope I'll remember that. Ethan. Ethan, how was your day? How has it been? Because for me it was largely okay. I did push out a video regarding Jose Mourinho. I don't know if you guys have just yourselves upon watching that, but if you haven't already, please consider going over there and watching that video. It was premiered earlier on today after our morning broadcast. Let me see. Around the afternoon hours, actually, around the lunchtime hour, that's when it was premiered for our video, where we talk about Jose Mourinho, and where I've been making edits. Oh, okay, edits for what? Are you a graphics designer or something? Sorry guys, was just having our audios tested just to make sure everything does check out for us before we proceed any further. You say, oh, football edits. What do you mean football edits? Like short videos, clips and stuff, you know? Oh, that's interesting. That's really interesting. Anyways, guys, as we speak, action is ongoing in as far as the UEFA Europa League is concerned, as well as the UEFA Conference League. Last I checked, the game between Braga and Freiburg was 1-1. Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest went into halftime goalless, but it was Aston Villa that had a key moment there. Stefan Ortega called to action. On the other side, Nottingham Forest largely did not have much to say in terms of testing. Emi Martinez, but they had their moments. Then Crystal Palace were 1-0 up against Shakhtar Donetsk, but as we speak, that game is 1-1 as the second half is on. So we'll be looking at those. I will also be giving you the updates as the action progresses through the course of this podcast. So for those of you that are just joining us, welcome to the Football Tribe UG channel. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. My name is Robert Kesakos, and I come to you live from Kampala, Uganda. You say Bayern versus PSG, absolute cinematic. Yeah, indeed, it was an absolute cinema for a neutral. But if you had any side that you're supporting, particularly on the night, trust me, it was not as pretty, or it wasn't as easy as some people have tried to paint it. I know how difficult it can be. Going through the emotions of the game minute by minute when you are going through it that way. Somebody is called Norbia Montes. Hi Montes, good to have you on the broadcast. How are you doing? Montes donated 400,000 to you. I'll be able to see it when you give me the donation, but even if it were $1, I'd still appreciate it a great deal because it would go a long way to supporting this channel. By the way, for those of you that are not aware, it's not a monetized channel. So what you have there is these tokens of thank you, where people can buy me a cup of coffee and things like that to say thank you and to give me all the encouragement that I need. Then we also have membership on the channel for those of you that are willing to join. There's nothing exclusive really at the moment about the membership. It's simply tailored to, or it's simply meant to support the work of this channel, so that at the end of the month I can be able to afford things like my Wi-Fi and mobile data, which costs less than $100, by the way. Actually, about $50. That's the whole cost of my internet. So yeah, if for those of you, if you can't subscribe for membership, if you can, say thank you, even if it's $1, even if it's less than $1, I really, really appreciate it a great deal. But Montez, I'll take that for a gesture of the hope that you would make the donation. Neuer did do well in that game. I certainly agree with you, Ethan, on that. Montez says, hi, are you a girl or boy? Or you're Spanish? I think that's meant for Montez. For those of you that are just joining the broadcast, like I said, kindly um, like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. It's a pleasure to have you all on this broadcast. Any action that you take in liking the broadcast and subscribing to the channel is much appreciated in helping support this channel continue to grow. Football Tribe UG is a football channel. It's a sports channel. We get to talk majority about football, is what our interest is. And in case you're wondering, I'm from Uganda. Just let me know where you are from down in the comment section, and I'll be reading each and every one of your comments. I'll be responding to each one of them. Meanwhile, guys, my feed for the Crystal Palace game is sort of playing games on me. It's it's dancing hide and seek on me. But let's see if we can be able to get it set up for the second half. I can see Matov Michael joins us. Hi, Michael. How are you doing? How has been your day? I hope you are doing all right. Okay, so I'll try my best to keep up to speed with what was happening from the first half. Sorry, from what I was following on between Crystal Palace against Shakhtar Donetsk, as well as the game between Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest. Like I said, as we speak, that game between Crystal Palace and Shakhtar Donetsk is in a 1-1 draw, so do not worry too much about that, while that of Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest is still goalless, at least at the time of this check, where it's 55 minutes played. Michael Matrovo says, what's your prediction on Aston Villa and Nottingham? Well, I had gone for a 1-1 draw, to be honest. I thought it is going to be a closely contested fixture, and I do not think the statistics from the opening stanza have let us down in any case, because you only had 2 shots on target, at least I think even 1 on target for either side. XG has been under 1% or 1. It's been 0.62 for Nottingham Forest as we speak. Remember, we're already into the second half, and only 0.23 for Aston Villa. They had that moment by Morgan Rogers where he forced Stefan Ortega into a brilliant save. On the other side, Igor Jesus was trying to find the breakthrough and things like that. But Nottingham Forest looked to be the dominant side. And it reminded me of something today as part of a TikTok live forum where a gentleman called, I think, Ash, he called himself Ash. He did say that a lot of us had sort of thought this was going to be, let's say, all the way in favor of Aston Villa, but he had contrary views to that. And he said that for him, he felt that Nottingham Forest were going to be the stronger side. ZXC VBNM, hi, how are you doing? I see you've retracted your comment. I do not know for what reason. Michael says he's doing well. That's good to know. So he was saying that he thought it was not going to be as simple as, or it was not going to be tilted towards Aston Villa as perhaps majority of people thought. And I remember having a bit of a contrary view, not so much so that it was going to be an easy fixture for Aston Villa, but I remember basing my debate or my discussion or driving my point through the experience of Unai Emery, who has been really, really successful in this competition. He's, I think, played 5 finals. He's lost only one. That was for when he was in charge of Arsenal against Chelsea in 2019. That final that was played in Azerbaijan, Baku. Then you go back to 2021. He guided Villarreal to the triumph of the same competition when they beat Manchester United on post-match penalties. Then you go back to 2014, 15, and 16 when he won it 3 consecutive times with Sevilla. So he really has a very good record in Unai Emery in as far as this particular competition is concerned. So whereas Vitor Pereira on the other side is a very good manager and he has a team that is capable of causing damage to Aston Villa, I think over 2 legs, I fancy Aston Villa to go through at the expense of Nottingham Forest. But Stefan Ortega is just been also forced into a brilliant save by Oli Watkins as we speak. Ethan, you said Dembele had a bad first half of the season just to lock in the second half of the season. Yeah, okay. I mean, Ethan says Ash was good. Okay, so now, when you talk about Dembele, by the way, I think the entirety of PSG literally did not have a fairly good start of the season. And a large part of that was due to fatigue. Remember, we are talking about a team that went through last season winning every piece of silverware that was in their way other than the FIFA Club World Cup in the summer, post the season, for which they also reached to the final and lost to Chelsea by 3 goals to 0. And then shortly after that, I think they had about, at very best, a 2 weeks break before starting the preparations for the subsequent season. So in other words, 2 to 3 weeks at best. So they had a slow start to the season and they've had to once again grow into the season because majority of that team or the core of that team is largely the same. With the departure of Gianluigi Donnarumma, they replaced him with Lucas Chavelia, I think from Lille. And then eventually things did not work out too well for him. And then they brought in Matevi Safonov. But when you look at the backline, William Pacho, Marquinhos, Nuno Mendes, Akraf Hakimi, that's the core team. The replacements, you have Lucas Hernandez, you have the likes of Ilya Zabani, who they signed from FC Bournemouth, and that kind of thing. Then when you look at the midfield, you have Joao Neves, you have Vitinha, you have Fabian Ruiz, who had been out through injury, I think, for about 2 months or so, or for a fair share part of the season. And then he just returned, and during his absence, it was Warren Zaire-Emery that was, in the cockpit of that. Then also, when you look at the forward lines, you had Ousmane Dembele, Desle Doué, and Kivicha Kvaratskhelia. Their substitutes being Seny Mayuru, Goncalo Ramos, Bradley Bacola, some of whom have suffered injuries across this sort of season. So when you sort of add the cumulative fatigue and all the energy that they used last season, it was only reasonable that they had a slow start to this sort of campaign. So that was it for me, or that was my assessment of it. Meanwhile, my game feed. Oh, Enzuri Konsa, cannot believe it. Okay, my feed for the Crystal Palace game is still failing me, but Crystal Palace have a lead. They lead the game by 2 goals to 1. Meanwhile, the other game is between Braga and Freiburg, and it is 1-1 as we speak. Then Rayo Vallecano against Strasbourg is still goalless, while Shakhtar Donetsk against Crystal Palace is 2-1 in favor of the visitors. A goal by Daichi Kamada is the one that separates the two sides after Ismail Sarr opened the scoring in the first minute, while Ochereto did score very early in the second half to restore parity for the visiting side. They say they want to win this trophy. That's Crystal Palace. They want to win the UEFA Conference League as a thank you for Oliver Glasner, who has led them to already great heights, guiding them to the triumph of the FA Cup last season, and then through the triumph of the Community Shield against Liverpool at the start of the season because he's going to sign out at the end of the season. So you have all that. So we'll have to wait and see what comes out of that side in as far as Crystal Palace is concerned. I do wish them the very best. I really, really wish it for them. They fought a good fight thus far, especially when you bear in mind that this competition was won by Chelsea. When you go back to the inaugural competition, for the inaugural campaign, it was won by AC Roma, then subsequently I think it was West Ham, then after West Ham it was Olympiacos, then Chelsea, and now it could go to Crystal Palace. So I really, really wish them the very best, although it's not going to be easy because you still have the likes of Rayo Vallecano and Strasbourg, whoever comes through from the other semi-final, but you also have your own semi-final hurdle to get past as far as things go at the moment. So but I do wish well for Oliver Glasner before he signs out of this, Crystal Palace side. Okay. Yeah, I remember. Was good. Man United or Liverpool, who is winning and losing? It could end in a draw. It could end in a draw, but I'd say the odds tilt towards Manchester United. They're very good at playing big games. It's a home game. They could seal their Champions League qualification with the victory against Liverpool. So that is what is going to be at stake for the Red Devils. Liverpool on the other side have similar circumstances. If they win that game, they restore parity in terms of points between them and Manchester United, who are at 61 points, really Liverpool at 58 points. But we'll get to discuss that game as part of the weekend preview as we go through this. And will Bruno break the record? He looks close to doing it. He's not far from it. He's only one assist away from equaling it and only two from beating it. So I can't say he won't. Will Arsenal win the Champions League final if they get through? It depends on who comes through on the other side. But if they were to advance at the expense of Atletico de Madrid to the finals, I'd say they would have a 50% chance of winning it, just as much as their Champions League final opponent. So I say let's wait until next week on Tuesday to find out, or Tuesday/Wednesday, to find out whether they would have advanced to the final or they would have bowed out at the semi-final, because Arsenal are dying a bit. I mean, it comes with this part of the season sometimes. You forget not that they lack the experience, forget not that they seem to be crumbling under the nerves and things like that. So really, only on pens. I mean, I wouldn't wish it for anyone on pens, because pens can be agonizingly difficult. I mean, I hate the stress of penalties. I wouldn't wish, I'd rather it ends in normal time, be it extra time or normal 90 minutes time. That's where I would have it fall. But yeah, Stefano Tega. Oh, so Ensbury Konsa was trying to claim a penalty for that. Really? Come on, man. He got the ball. He got the ball. I understand your frustration, but he got the ball. Meanwhile, Rayo Vallecano have a lead against Strasbourg. I'm trying really so hard to see if I can restore my feed for the Crystal Palace game. That's why I'm really, really trying. George Brown. Okay. George Brown says, I think that's a big possibility. How is Newer older than his manager? That's very possible. Forget not that Julian Nagelsmann is the youngest manager to ever manage in the German Bundesliga, and he started this at the age of 28. So it is very possible. When you go back to 20, what's the year? Was it 2011? No, 2010, 2011 season? Around that period, or 2012, when Chelsea brought in Andre Villas-Boas. You remember Andre Villas-Boas at Chelsea? He came in at the age of 33. So he was younger than some of the players in that Chelsea dressing room. He was younger than them, and that's why he could not command the respect. You know, so he came in for the 2011-2012 season, and suffice to say that it did not work out. You know, it did not work out. So, but it is what it is. It is what it is. You know, so he company wouldn't be the first. He wouldn't be really be the first. But in as far as things go, in as far as things go for Chelsea and their managers, you go back to that period, 2011-2012, they brought in Andre Villas-Boas. He was coming from FC Porto. Remember, Chelsea had a history of picking out Jose Mourinho from FC Porto, so they went back to the same ground to pick him out. So when you go back to the late 1998, that was 1998 February to 2000, they had Gianluca Vieri. Then they had Graham Rex. That was for only a couple of days before Claudio Ranieri came through. That's between 2000 and 2004. Then Jose Mourinho came in for up to September 2007. It was in his third season that he got sacked. Then Avram Grant took over until very late in the season. That was until the end of the season. And then Luis Felipe Scolari, who had won the World Cup in 2002 with Brazil, and I think had managed Portugal at the 2006 World Cup, took on the reins, from 2008, but was sacked in February 2009. Then Ray Wilkins took charge for about a week before Gusidik was appointed as the interim. After Gusidik going until the end of the season, then that's when Carlo Ancelotti comes in. Then Carlo Ancelotti was sacked. He only lasted one season, and then they brought in Andre Villas-Boas. Yes, so Andre Villas-Boas comes in. It does not work out. By March, he was sacked. Then that's when Roberto Di Matteo remained in charge and guided Chelsea to the triumph of the UEFA Champions League in 2012. So when he gets the UEFA Champions League, he's given a 2-year contract on a whim, and then he was sacked before December, and actually in November. And then Rafael Benitez came to take charge of the team and won them the UEFA Europa League. Remember when they crashed out of the UEFA Champions League, where they had been the reigning champions? They went to the UEFA Europa League in the old format, and Rafael Benitez took charge of them. But that's been Chelsea all through and through. So when Benitez eventually leaves at the end of the season, that's when Jose Mourinho returns for his second spell after leaving Real Madrid. Then they go through Steve Holland after sacking Mourinho in December 2015. Then Gusidik comes back. Steve Holland, we're talking about the former assistant to Gareth Southgate, and is now currently an assistant to Michael Adrian Carrick at Manchester United during his interim spell. So then he handled the team briefly for only a couple of days, I think 1 or 2 to 3 days, and then Gusidik came back for his second stint until the end of the season. Antonio Conte comes in, Mauricio Sarri, Frank Lampard, Thomas Tuchel, Graham Potter, Bruno Solta, Frank Lampard too. That's after the sacking of Graham Potter, Pochettino, Enzo Maresca, Carl McPherson, briefly Liam Rafinha. That's been sort of the chronology of events for a team like Chelsea. Okay, in as far as their managers are concerned. Okay, a year. Okay, Valicano, I forgot about that. Have you heard of Mbappe dictator memes? Not really. Is that a thing? Chelsea will buy a young manager. I don't know which young manager they will look to buy, but I've seen some suggestions pointing fingers to Francesco Farioli, who is currently at FC Porto. There, he had a stint with Ajax last season, but he could not guide them to, to winning ways. So they've resorted to. He's done fairly well with FC Porto. And we just have to wait and see. But for Chelsea, I think they could use somebody with experience. If I were Chelsea, by the way, I think I would swallow my bitter pill, go back to Mauricio Pochettino at the end of the World Cup and say, look here, guys, look here, Poch, you are right, we were wrong. This team needs a bit of experienced players. Give us a list, do the squad assessment, tell us who you want to keep, who you want out. We'll let you know where the flexibilities are, what's possible and what is not. Give us a list of those that you want to recruit, and then we take it from there. That's how I would go about it. That would be the safe bet for me if I were Chelsea. But obviously, the egos of some of these guys are too big for them to swallow the bitter pill to say, we are going to go about it this way. So sometimes you have to let it be and let it be for what it is. Meanwhile, Nottingham Forest have already scored, and it's 1-0 to the home side. That goal scored by Chris Wood from the penalty spot in the 71st minute is what separates the two sides. Hi, Pedri. How are you doing? Iran to play at the World Cup? Yes, that has been confirmed. According to FIFA President Gian Infantino, while speaking at the annual Football Congress in Vancouver, he did affirm that Iran will be playing at the World Cup. He said, let me start by the onset, by the outset, confirming straight away that, of course, Iran will be participating at the FIFA World Cup 2026. And of course, Iran will play in the United States of America. Remember, Iran find themselves in Group G of the World Cup with teams like Belgium, Egypt, and New Zealand. And those games of Group G will be played in the United States of America. And according to reports, according to France 24 news, France 24 news, they say that US President Donald John Trump, he seems okay with that. He said he was asked in the Oval Office, and he said, well, if Gian said it, I'm okay. I think let them play. Remember, Iran's participation at the 2026 World Cup had come into question because of the war that started in February, orchestrated by the USA and Iran against Iran. So that's the two parties on one side against Iran. So as we speak, they are in a bit of a pause. It's what's the war term for it? A ceasefire. Yes, they are in a ceasefire moment. So it's been on a pause for quite some time. However, the two countries are still at an impasse because of the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran reopened the Strait of Hormuz unconditionally for free passage of all ships. Then the USA decided they will continue with their blockade for all ships coming from Iranian ports, and therefore Iran also said, we are reclosing it again. I'll not give you my views on that. This is not a a war channel, so please reserve me at the burden. But Pedri is really seems excited about the idea of Iran playing at the World Cup. Hi, Guna. Guna SE says, hi, good to have you back on the podcast. Always a pleasure to see you guys around. You've done me a great deal of honors and favors. Every time you guys show up, my usual suspects, my semi-regular suspects, you give me the encouragement to keep doing this, to keep going, even when sometimes my guts may not feel like it. But yeah, Yeremy Pino is paving the way for Brian Johnson in the game for Crystal Palace against Shakhtar Donetsk. But Aston Villa are really trying to push for an equalizer, but so far it's still eluding them. Morgan Rogers just headed his attempt wide. I think he's going to be withdrawn. Maybe that's what I think. Okay, so in as far as the World Cup is concerned with Iran, so there had been a proposal or a suggestion that should Iran bow out or Iran be kicked out in favor of a country like Italy. And I said, no, if Italy are to play to the World Cup, let them merit themselves at playing there. Let them qualify. You know, in other words, if let's say maybe at least if Iran were to pull out, even in this short span of time, I'd rather FIFA organize a simple playoff for teams that lost in the playoffs to to have a chance at playing at the World Cup. To to playing at the World Cup, and that's how we would determine who fills the gap. If it had been this case, I mean, I do not leave anything to chance. It is still a possibility that, let's say, Iran make the judgment to say, let's say, we are pulling out at the last hour. It's something that is very, very possible. Yeah, especially with the war situation that is ongoing. That's ongoing between their country and the USA plus Israel. So anything is still a possibility. I do not know if FIFA have a contingency plan or in preparation for that, or they will let just things be should Iran pull out. You remember in '92 when Denmark won the Euros, they had simply been invited to the tournament after was it Yugoslavia had withdrawn from the competition. So maybe we would have a wild card on our hands if that were to be the case. But we'll have to wait and see how things go at as things go from there. But I found it really, really positive news for Iran to go to the World Cup. I can't wait to see if Iranians will be permitted to travel to the USA to go and cheer their team on. And I do suspect that in the idea of because I know for a fact, okay, I won't say I know for a fact, but I highly suspect that Iranians who may attempt to apply for visas to the, by the way, isn't Iran on the blacklist for the USA for countries that shouldn't, for countries who should be denied visas, regardless of whether it's for the World Cup or otherwise? So essentially, you may have neutral countries or neutral fans from elsewhere across the globe siding with Iran. I'll give an example. Let's say, because they are in Group G with Belgium, Egypt, and New Zealand, let's say on a day when they are playing Belgium, you could have Egyptian fans and New Zealand fans, let's say, rooting for Iran. Let's say on a day they are playing Egypt, Belgium fans are rooting for them, and things like that. You never know, and some neutrals. So we're just going to have to wait and see. But it's really, really funny, or really the double standards that Iran are going through this, or that this is happening with the USA. But on the other side, Russia was frozen out of sporting, including football, because of sanctions emanating from their war with Ukraine, for an organization that says, we do not want anything to do with your politics. We do not want your politics interfering in our governance of the game. Well, I would have expected perhaps something different, perhaps something much better, but it is what it is. I do not make the rules, but they make the rules, and we simply watch on as teams either abide by them or die by them. You know. Meanwhile, allow me to send my sincere appreciations to Anne. Anne, wherever you are, thank you for the cup of coffee yesterday. My sincere appreciation to Jesus Y815. Thank you so much for the cup of coffee. In fact, 2 cups of coffee ever since that thank you box came on. Somebody on these streets promised me cups of coffee, but when the time was due for them to come good on them, they reneged on their offer. But it is what it is, We move on regardless. Oh, that's a good clearance. Not too far. Aston Villa really, really pushing to try and find that equalizer. Come on. Try stop looking for that fine pass in the area. Try stop looking for that fine pass in the area. It may never fall for you, you know. It may never fall for you. Go with what you got. Go with what you have. Try and shoot that ball from distance. I like players who utilize tiny bits and uh, rooms of spaces to shoot the ball on goal as often as they can, especially when you're playing against a team that is not going to accommodate you all the space in the world that you think you owe, that you think you need to find the breakthrough against some of these sides. Steve Bannon says bananas were 90 cents per pound today. Way too much. I bought plantains instead. How do you substitute plantain for bananas? It's I don't think one is the substitute of the other. Maybe in the form of food, as a concept, as something that you consume, I understand. But anyway, Steve, you can also buy me a bunch of bananas or some plantain with a thank you on the channel. But anyways, jokes aside, I can't relate because from where I stand, anyway, I think even for us, bananas have been expensive lately in the market. You'd get a very small batch for 2,000 shillings. 2,000 shillings is a little over $0.5 or is a little over 50 cents. So that's for a small batch. So, our gas prices went up, then banana prices went up. What do bananas and gas have to do with anything? Where do your bananas come from? Anyways, for us, our bananas come from the pitch. When we watch people play football, that's our enjoyment of bananas. But thank you so much, Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is not that big a football enthusiast, but whenever he spares a moment to come through and support this channel, he always does, and that's what I appreciate him for. And on that very note, allow me to say thank you, Team India, for your show of kindness, for your continued love and support. Every now and then, somewhere in the midst of an isolation of a creator, you'll find an Indian trying to support them, regardless of what the topic is. So India are the MVPs of this thing, are the MVPs. Transportation prices, control food prices, I certainly agree with you on that. When it's the cost of distribution, I completely understand. The question you did not answer though is where are your bananas from? So that should give us the math, because it's also a game of numbers, It's also a game of numbers. But I know even as fuel prices gas prices are affecting us. For example, the last time I went, you guys, those people in the US are so lucky. A gallon of fuel has about 3.7 liters. And they used to buy that at about $1 or so. Now it's gone up to maybe, let's say, $4. It's still cheaper than gas in UG. Our 1 liter of fuel is approximately $1.5. So it's really expensive. And in some parts of the country, it's already gone to $2, where the cost of distribution is high. So really, what's happening with the US war with Iran and Israel has unintended consequences for the rest of the world. I think I may start growing bananas on my property so I get them for free. You can, but it's not that simple, But try your luck and see what comes up. Try your luck and see what comes up. Anyways, so, but yeah, beautiful action that we are witnessing. Aston Villa are yet to find a breakthrough. Nottingham Forest continue with their 1-0 lead. That game is in the 87th minute. Then, Crystal Palace have gotten a third. Jørgen Strand Larsson her squad to make it 3-1 in favor of Crystal Palace. That's the kind of result you need away from home. That's the kind of result that you need away from home if you're going to book your spot in the final. If you're going to book your spot in the final, I mean, that's a really, really decent result. That's a really, really going to be, that will go down as a very, very decent result. And meanwhile, the game between Freiburg and Braga is still one apiece, so not much is separating the two sides as we speak. But yeah, let's see. Jürgen Strand-Larsson. Oh, what a miss. Daichi Kamada led the attack or the onslaught. Well-weighted pass. No offside. Oh, Jürgen Strand-Larsson dribbles past one defender and tucks it in the bottom corner. They spent £45 million on him. He had scored, I think, only 1 or 2 goals for Wolverhampton Wanderers throughout the entirety of the campaign before he joined Crystal Palace. So, but that's going to prove to be a very, very important goal. At least they take back home a 2-0 advantage. If it ends 3-1 in their favor, Oliver Glasner could not stop screaming at his boys. Meanwhile, Shakhtar Donetsk are under the charges of former Atletico de Madrid midfielder Ada Turan. He's the one in charge of Shakhtar Donetsk there. But yeah. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. That's all tiredness. Nottingham Forest seem like they are not leaving much to chance. They seem like they're not leaving much to chance. If they are going to bow out, they'll bow out trying. But for now, they retain the lead. The funny thing about knockout competitions is that once you go behind, the opponent's team is capable of frustrating you into a lack of goals. And should it finish the way it is, going into the reverse fixture, the last thing Aston Villa would want is conceding fast. So they will be desperately looking for that first goal that restores parity, and it's not often easy to come by. It's not often easy to come by. Always rising from Yuri Tillemans. But it was a good run. Anyway, it is what it is. But Igor Jesus being withdrawn there, I hope I'm not missing any of your comments. It doesn't look like it. But for those of you that recently subscribed to the channel, those from our TikTok forum and family, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to see new faces. We are currently at 4,348 subscribers. Instead of deducting yourself, make sure you add somebody onto the forum. Add somebody to the forum and help support what we do. Let's continue growing together. Let's continue growing together. Keep supporting what we do. Shakhtar Donetsk have missed lots of chances in this game. Even in the first half, they would play those balls to the back post, and there's nobody there to track them. There's nobody to cut them out. And it's not that they've not created, they've just not been clinical with the chances that they've created. And that can be very, very frustrating. And that can be very, very frustrating, you know? So, but anyway, it is what it is. Let's see the remaining part of this. Oh, come on. My internet is freezing me out. Jefferson Lemar is a player coming on for Taichi Kamada. Oh, really? Let's see that goal from Taichi Kamada once again. It was a long throw in from Christian Richards. They did not defend well the long throw. Bounced off to Taichi Kamada, who buried it into the bottom corner. And as they said, the rest is history for now. Shakhtar Donetsk players can hardly believe it that they are losing 3-1 against Crystal Palace in a home fixture. I think for teams like Shakhtar Donetsk, they too have not been helped by the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. That war has been going on for the last 4 years. And then because of that, the world forgot that Sudan is at war. The world forgot that, other wars being fought. Once Gaza happened, everything became second fiddle, as though human life in one part of the world means much more than it is in another part of the world. Maybe it's the case of these 5 fingers. There are no equals in the jungle, you know? So, come on. Nottingham Forest are not tiring of running. They want to see out this victory. Just imagine Vita Pereira guides Nottingham Forest the triumph of the UEFA Europa League. Imagine getting relegated, but you also have to play in the Champions League. Wouldn't that be funny? I mean, because in the Premier League, they're battling against relegation. They are not yet in the fall, but they're not safe. They're not safe. When you look at the Premier League table, they're not safe. They're 16th. Of course, they're above West Ham, so they have a slightly better chance in terms of their odds of staying up than West Ham as we speak, and those of Nottingham Forest, those of Tottenham Hotspurs, but no less, it's yet sealed. It's yet to be sealed. Nottingham Forest have not even tried to find that second goal. Once they went through, they decided to defend. Omari Hudson penalized. Crystal Palace celebrated that like it was a goal of some sort, but it wasn't. It wasn't. Anyway, it's all over between Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa. It's finished 1-0 in favor of Nottingham Forest. That penalty from Chris Wood is what separated the two sides. The game between Crystal Palace and Shakhtar Donetsk has also finished 3-1 in favor of the visitors, while Rayo Vallecano are still 1 up against Strasbourg. And then the game between Braga and Freiburg is 2-1, with Braga leading by 2-1 against Freiburg. So that is still happening. So, I mean, quite very, very interesting. Now, the weekend is around the corner. We will start previewing all those fixtures starting with tomorrow. But no, nonetheless, here is what's to come from as far as the Premier League is concerned. We have a game tomorrow night that's between Leeds United and Burnley at 10 p.m. East African time. Then we have a game. Then on Saturday, there's no early kickoff, but you have 3 games kicking off at 5 p.m. between Brentford and West Ham. You have Newcastle against Brighton and Hove Albion. You have Wolverhampton Wanderers against Sunderland. You have Arsenal versus Fulham at 7:30 p.m. Very difficult game there for the Premier League title contenders. Then on Super Sunday, you have Bournemouth at 4 p.m. against Crystal Palace at 5 p.m. I don't know why that was set that way, but it is what it is. But at 5 p.m., you have a game between Liverpool and Manchester United, with Manchester United being the home side. Why didn't they just put it at 6 p.m.? To let the Crystal Palace Bournemouth game first finish. Anyways, they have their reasons. And then in the late kickoff, you have a game between Aston Villa and Tottenham Hotspurs. That's at 9 p.m. on Super Sunday. Then on Monday night football, on Monday night or on Monday, you have 2 games. That's at 5 p.m. I don't know how they set this one for a Monday early kickoff, because 5 p.m. is going to be 3 p.m. Between Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. I mean, when I first saw this, I almost did not believe it. First of all, it's a working day. If Monday is a working day, why then are you having this game very early as 3 p.m. UK time, which is 5 p.m. East African time? Then you have a game between Chelsea, and then in the late kickoff at 10 p.m. will be Everton at home against Manchester City. So, meanwhile, it's I don't want to think it's interesting, but that's how the 10 Premier League games for match day 35 have been spread out for the world. I found it a bit concerning. Anyway, maybe it's because I'm not accustomed to it that I try to pick a bone with it. But it's not the only piece of action that will be happening tomorrow. The game between Leeds and Burnley. Meanwhile, Burnley have today part ways with Scott Parker on mutual consent, and they've appointed Michael Jackson to take on the reins at the club until the end of the season. So I thought that's some really, really critical news, or important, and an important update to discuss. Then at Manchester United, Kobe Mainu did put pen to paper on a new-year contract that runs until June 2031. So that's very, very significant news for that's very, very significant news for Manchester United and the Manchester United faithfuls. It's really, really, I don't know. It's very good news. First of all, because we're talking about a player who last summer was putting in a transfer request, requesting to be let go of, at least out on loan, and the club were insistent. Really, all that was being happening when Ruben Amorim well knew he was not part of his plans, because he thought he's not good enough for his system. That's what he said. But under Michael Carrick, Kobe Mainu has been sort of a revelation. We have seen a reincarnation of the youngster that we have always thought highly of, one that played at the Euros final between Spain and England. So the kind of performances that he's been giving you are those of an advert, more so to tell Thomas Tuchel that you got to have your eyes on me. You got to think about me as you think about your World Cup squad. And I find, and the question then becomes, out of the likes of Elliot Anderson, Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, Morgan Rogers, Ebeleche Eze. Of course, but that whole composition of midfielders, Alex Scott, who else? There's another midfielder that I'm forgetting. There's the likes of James Garner. Who do you omit to accommodate Kobe Mainu? You know, who do you omit to accommodate Kobe Mainu? The unfortunate thing is that wait around when that squad is about to be read, you're going to hear narratives like, oh, if he's omitted from the World Cup squad, it will be such a huge miss with all his experience, having done ABCD, blah, 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 played at this level. And if we do not win the World Cup, it will be because he left players like Kobe Mino behind. And I'm like, come on, guys. The only time you won it was back in 1996. So it doesn't look like you're about to win it anytime soon. And until then, relax, sit your asses down, and let the world of football be. Meanwhile, Mason Mount thinks that next season they can win the Premier League. That's Manchester United. That's Manchester United is Mason Mount talking to the Daily Mail, as quoted by Fabrizio Romano. I'm thinking to myself, there's no harm in dreaming. There's no harm in dreaming. They are allowed to dream. They are allowed to dream. So really, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. But we do not know who is going to be in charge. We do not know who is going to be in charge. Meanwhile, things never cease to amuse me. At Bayern Munich, Manuel Neuer wants to extend his contract with Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich are offering him a new deal until June 2027. That's a one-year contract. Now, he's been a very, very decent servant for Bayern Munich. And he does deserve maybe every little bit of an extension or lifeline. For as long as he still feels it within him to keep going, maybe he deserves it. But the question, of course, you cannot say until when, because Gigi Buffon played until his 40s, and he's currently 40. Just during the course of this broadcast, Ethan was reminding us of how he's older than his manager in company, and I'm saying that's very possible, because company is what, 30, is equally 40, so they are of the same age. One is born in April, the other is born in March, so almost just 1 month apart. But I mean, for me, I've seen players play on. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo. He's well in his 40s and he's still playing. Looks like Lionel Messi wants to take the same direction. And for as long as they are still delivering, I have zero qualms whatsoever. The challenge, though, I don't know if it's a challenge. It depends on how you look at it. What it means for the young goalkeepers that must be coming through in behind the likes of Manuel Neuer, as of course they can always learn from him. But in terms of the German national team, I remember Jens Lehmann not having a very good stint with the German national team simply because he was born in the same era with Oliver Kahn. Same thing has happened to Barcelona's Marc-Andre ter Stegen, being born in literally the same era with Manuel Neuer, who is here not wanting to retire, But he's been a very, very faithful and decent servant to Bayern Munich. Loads of experience. Two-time UEFA Champions League winner with Bayern Munich 2013 and 2020. So, I mean, he's won the Bundesliga literally for fun. I'm sure let me ask, for players that have been at Bayern Munich for quite some time, like Leon Goretzka, Joshua Kimmich, Manuel Neuer, maybe fairly dead. Upamecano has been there for at least, 5 years or thereabout. But for players that have been there for quite some time, how does it feel when it becomes monotonous, when it becomes a given that you're going to win the Bundesliga title? I know you have to work for it throughout the course of the season, but because it's something that you win very often or more often than not, does it still hold the same value? Because it's like food. If your favorite food is, let's say, rice and chicken, and you can afford eating it every day, then at one point it's going to cease being your favorite. Why? Because it's readily available and you can afford it every other single day. You know, if you're, because when it comes to some of these competitions, yes, you want your team to win them as many times as possible, but if you're winning it every season, season in, season out, I mean, the celebrations cannot be the same. I'll give you an example. If Arsenal were to win the UEFA Champions League title this season, do you imagine the kind of celebrations those fans are going to be in? Why? Because they will be winning it for the first time. Imagine if they were to win the Premier League title, because they've not won it in the last 22 years. So it would mean more to them. Imagine if, let's say, actually, go back to PSG last season. They won their inaugural Champions League title. Hence the wild celebrations. You remember when Real Madrid won it 3 years in a row? Yes, they celebrated every part of it, but the sort of satisfaction they derived in winning it in 2018 is not the same as the one from 2014. It's not the same as the one from 2016, because at least in 2016 they had skipped 1 year and Barcelona had won it. But it had become routine. Look at PSG when they win the French league title. You know, it's so monotonous. Look at Celtic. I don't think Celtic even still celebrate anymore when they win the Scottish League. Why? Because it's something that they are accustomed to winning. They win every now and often, every now and then, more often than not. So I don't know. At least I would want to hear it from a football fan of the respective club, and perhaps a player by extension, just to understand how it feels. Because, you see, the thing about success, or the thing about all this is that when you look at, allow me use the example of food. It's the law of diminishing marginal utility. Or when you reach the point of satiety, you know how we used to draw those curves? When you're consuming a product, for a product for the first time, you'll consume more and more of it until you reach a point of satiety. Now, at that point of satiety or point of satisfaction, you sort of flatline in a way. You're no longer just there. And then you begin diminishing. In other words, you're deriving less and less satisfaction the more you consume the same product. Basic economics 101. Do I need to draw the curve? let me see if my economics still works. So basically, you'd have something like this. Jesus Christ. I don't know if you guys are even able to see this. Yes, you'd have something like that. That this is your starting point. The more you consume the product, the more satisfaction you get out of it. Then you reach this point, and it's a point of satisfaction, and therefore you sort of flatline and then begin. So That's how I would want to envision it, or that's how I would want to think about it. For teams that win these league titles. Lash Gush says Bayern will come back. They play very good at home. I mean, I wish them the very best. We are waiting. Wednesday next week is not too far away for us to see how they bounce back or if they will bounce back. I mean, a one goal margin is not too big to overturn. We've seen bigger margins overturned. But at the moment when you joined us, I was talking about Bayern Munich, and I was saying for players, and this came from the idea or from the fact that Manuel Neuer is said to be handed a one-year contract extension at Bayern Munich, and I was asking myself, does he still derive the same satisfaction of winning the German Bundesliga for nowadays, now that he's won it so often, than when he first won it? I certainly don't think so. And I was trying to explain that demand curve, or when you consume a product, so I do not think he's so much enthused. That's why for teams like Bayern Munich, winning the Bundesliga for a manager is not news. It's an expectation, almost a given. Not that it does not require effort, but it's the bare minimum for them. Therefore, what qualifies for the ultimate success is usually winning the UEFA Champions League, or if you win, let's say, the Bundesliga, DFB Pokal, and the UEFA Champions League, that's the ultimate success for them, So Neuer has won everything possible. That's why he isn't motivated sometimes. I mean, it's bound to happen. Like I said, I'll give you an example. If, let's say, your favorite drink is, and this is not an advert, guys. If your favorite drink is a Coca-Cola or a Fanta, when you open the first bottle and consume it, the amount of satisfaction you derive from that bottle of Coca-Cola or Fanta cannot be the same satisfaction that you derive from it if you're taking your 10th bottle. No, it cannot be the same. So Manuel Neuer is literally in that sort of quote-unquote bracket. I don't mean to say they shouldn't give him the contract, but for me, the key question I raised, what does it mean for those coming in behind him? The kinds of goalkeepers that want to break through that Bayern Munich squad and, be the next Manuel Neuer. You can only become good based on your experience. The more you play, actually, it happens in almost every sphere of life. The more you do something, the better you become at it over time, because it's a learning curve. It's a learning curve, The more you write, the more you become better at it. The more you speak, the more you become better at it. The more you sit in front of the camera, the more you become more confident before it. The more you interact with people, the easier it becomes for you to start interactions with people. So anyways, guys, allow me to remind you that earlier on today, we did put out a video about Jose Mario Felix Mourinho and about his potential return to Real Madrid. We did discuss that. Go watch the video and let me know what your thoughts are in as far as that topic is concerned. I'm yet to see sort of any new kind of feedback from newer faces in regards to that video. So anyways, guys, allow me to wrap it up here. It's been a pleasure doing this with you. But Lash Gush, thank you so much. Steve Bano, it's been a pleasure. Ethan, thank you so much. Michael Matovu, always a pleasure. Montez, thank you so much. And every single one of you that has been part of tonight's broadcast, I thank you so much for the time you've dedicated to be part of the conversation tonight. I wish you all the best ahead of the weekend. Tomorrow morning, God willing, provided we have power, all factors kept constant, we'll be here to discuss the latest from The World of Football will look at all the fixtures from across the 5 major leagues of Europe in regards to what's to come in the weekend. We'll start doing our previews for the respective games that will be coming. Of course, some games are bigger than others, so we'll throw more light. Sorry, not more shade, more light on them, and things like that. You know, so just keep it locked on the Football Tribe UG channel whenever you can. Do not forget to like, comment, share, and then so that our content can be recommended to more and more people that of similar interests on the YouTube community. So the more you take those actions of liking, commenting, sharing, you can share on your WhatsApp status, you can share on your social media status, you can share a link on your X. Anywhere you share it, it's much appreciated. In your Facebook group, much appreciated. So stay blessed, and until next time, I'll see you guys. Bye-bye for now.